It's just reality.
Are live. It is NFL Week 5. This is Tournament Tactics. We're taking a look at strategies to attack big tournaments for NFL Week 5 on DraftKings and FanDuel, all that good stuff. And we're coming off First of all, I took on BobbyWow's team in the DFS Army Staff Fantasy Football League. And of course, I look up and he has every player from the Bears on his team. So I'm down like 120 to like 3 after Thursday night. I'm like, all right, this isn't looking too good. A pretty exciting. We're coming off an exciting Thursday night game where once again, and this is it's almost becoming ridiculous at some point. Just more takedowns from DFS Army subscribers. Vita 6129, first place in the Millie. Nolan T, our own Tom Nolan.
Yeah, that's baller stats right there.
Another big winner there. Your boy Geek almost took it down as well. Jay Sleazy, no longer my guy after he misses. I gave him a nickname on the show. When you give a player a nickname, they should reward you with a positive performance. Jay Slizzy, Joey Sly.
You gave him a segment. It wasn't just you gave him a whole segment.
I gave him a whole segment. Then he misses that easy chip-in field goal, and that was the difference between me taking first in the freaking big contest and all these other people, or 21st as I wound up. It's my top lineup. Go from $25K to $100. That is DFS in a nutshell. But again, congrats to our two big winners. And this is just another showdown. I fully believe that the Domination Station there is no better tool for taking down showdowns than this tool. It's been proven again and again and again and again and again, the number of wins. So again, congrats to all of the subscribers who crushed it yesterday, and especially Tom and Vita for those massive wins in the big contest.
I don't know, Kev, man. I got to give it out to Sox Fever 51 too, man. He took down his second King of the Beach in 5 days. I mean, boom. What? It's very difficult to take down that contest. I know this wholeheartedly. I've been going after the King of the Beach, and that a lot of subs probably know this. I go after it every week. It's a very difficult contest to win. And you have to win it solely, as well as the World Fantasy Football Championships. I go after those every week too. So it's awesome. Sox Fever 51, bro. I love it. It's awesome.
Good job, Sox Fever. That's right. 2 in 2 weeks. Very impressive. Oh, there he is. Very impressive. Looking for more. Nice, so great job. Love it. By the way, you need a couple of those tickets. As someone who's been to the King of the Beach, you want to have a couple of tickets to that initial contest. At least get you 2 or 3 shots at making the live final. And if you can get more than one entry in the live final, you really have a massive advantage, because you can do a little bit of off chalk where, like, anybody with just one lineup in a 75-person like million to first contest is really not going to do like crazy GPP only things. You're really trying to make sure you don't look stupid as well. So the more lineups you have, the more you could take some chances in those kind of contests. So great stuff. And we're going to talk about great pivots off of Hurts, and we're going to break it all down. The NFL Week 5 slate. There's a lot of really, I like this slate. I'm really excited. I think the running back position is pretty clear and straightforward. And then the quarterbacks, I like some cheap ones. I've already built a ton of lineups for this slate, so I feel really ready for this, guys. But before we get into giving you the secrets to take down the Millie Maker, if you're watching this, we ask that you kindly hit the subscribe button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, notification bell, so you're aware when we are putting these videos out. We're doing them every week, and we're keeping them going. Hit that like button. Make sure that you're letting these guys know that you like what they're doing in these breakdowns, so we keep them coming at you all season long here at the DFS Army YouTube channel, and of course for the DFS Army family. All right, guys, we've got an NFL Week 5 slate that is, I think, very like top heavy. I'm going to say there's a couple of games that really kind of pop above the others. So let's just talk through those games to start. And the two games, of course, in my mind, are KC at Minnesota and the Eagles at the Rams. So many reasons to like both of these games, right? Like just so many, elite quarterbacks, potentially competitive games. I always like it if it's a Vikings game. I like that the Vikings are at home, keeps them a little more likely to kind of hang around. We're getting some news. Amon-Ra looks doubtful this week, so we might get some value going on with the Lions somewhere or another. So let's kind of talk through these games, guys, and we'll start with this Vikings Chiefs game. Now, obviously, Mahomes is awesome and whatever, but he's also very, very expensive. Not the easiest person to stack. So I'm gonna start with you, BobbyWow, since we haven't talked through the slate much. I already talked to Burns, and Josiah's right next to you there, so we'll go to him next. But how are you attacking this Chiefs Vikings situation? Rocking the Vikings purple, by the way. Just keeping it real.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love that touch. I think there's a billion ways you could attack this game. Mahomes is a solid play. The only issue I have with Mahomes, you mentioned it a million times before, is that he's just hard to stack. And Kelsey's going to get there at some point, but he hasn't been that go-to stack with Mahomes just yet. It doesn't feel like they're quite on the same page. So that makes it even tougher for me. I kind of prefer going to the Kirk Cousins Vikings side of the football. That feels like an easier stack. And the reality is the Vikings are going to be chasing the Chiefs pretty much no matter how you look at it. So I like trying to capitalize on those points.
Yeah, I can see that. And one of the things I've been looking at is on the Viking side and with Cousins, even not necessarily going the super obvious Justin Jefferson route, but rather kind of finding some of those alternative Hawkinson/Addison approaches. Addison is unowned, and he will not pop on any sort of optimizer correctly because he's effectively the WR3 for the Vikings. He's getting fewer snaps than KJ Osborne. He's coming off a donut last week, so no one's going to play someone like Addison, and correctly so. If you're running your cash game out there, he should not be in that lineup. But that means nothing for tournaments. In tournaments, anybody could pop off. So I like that approach. It's much cheaper to pair, Cousins with Addison and Hawkinson than any sort of, like putting Mahomes in there with Mr. Pfizer. Not costs a lot of money.
It does.
I've been waiting to say that.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Josiah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Bobby. This is definitely a game that you want to attack and target. I'm not as on board with the Cousins play. I really want to be, but the Chiefs have been solid this year against opposing quarterbacks and wideouts. So it's a little bit harder for me to get there, but at home, I get it. I guess one way I'm trying to get different, but it might still not be creative enough, is pairing Mahomes with the wideout who's getting like the second most targets, who is Rashee Rice. And then I can fit Jefferson in pretty easily that way. So that's kind of how I'm going about it, but I'm playing a lot of weird combinations with this game this week.
I'm going to actually respond to Gunslinger here. Yeah, I mean, with Madison, he also, rumors of Madison's demise have been greatly exaggerated thus far. We saw Cam Akers get, I think, 7 or 8 touches compared to Madison getting about 17 or 18 touches in the last game. So we're still talking about, a 65-35, at least last week. That could change at any time, though. So it's definitely scary to play Madison there. What about you, Burns? How do you feel about that game?
I mean, this is the game of the week, right? So load up time basically is what it's telling you. I do like Mahomes in this game. I like him naked as well, simply because we just don't know where he's going to go. I mean, his main stack partner in this game is Kelsey, but it costs you a lot of money. I do like the Rashee Rice call by Josiah in this one. He actually was the highest target share last week at 19.85% of any other WRs in the game last week. So I do like that a lot. Rashee Rice, he's a big body wide receiver that can go up and get him in the end zone. I know we saw something with pass catching backs with Mahomes. I was looking at this a little bit today. I don't know if McKinney can get there in this game. Yeah, I know Minnesota's 19th against pass catching backs. I just don't know if the volume's there for him to get you to a winning winning Millie Maker potentiality there. I do like Isaiah Pacheco more in this game than I would Jarrett McKinnon. But on the Minnesota side, Jefferson's awesome. But I do like Addison, and I actually, the best one I think is probably going to be Hawkinson on that side.
Yeah, I mean, it's math, guys, and the way the math works, when you play Justin Jefferson at 9,400, you need 40. Like, that is a big ask for any wide receiver. If he's going to help you keep pace to win a tournament, you need effectively 40 fantasy points out of Justin Jefferson. Again, that's a big ask for a guy who has not seen anything like the 14, 16 target type numbers. He's hanging around just over double digits most week. I expect he'll get his 12, 13 targets here, and he'll have a very good game, but it might be a 30 instead of a 40, which is great for your cash lineup. And by the way, probably a good cash play. But one interesting thing I noticed at wide receiver this week is like Justin Jefferson's directly competing with Tyreek Hill for most fantasy points on the slate guy. And Tyreek Hill is just as likely in a soft matchup against the Giants to get there, even when they don't need Tyreek, but like they might just do it because they're having fun out there. Like with Jefferson, they need Jefferson. With Tyreek, they might just be having fun. So Tyreek Hill looms large as the other pay up option on the slate. DraftKings did make one thing easy this week, guys. They priced up Cooper Kupp at 8,600, effectively eliminating him from any sort of interest by me. On this one, I'm not touching any of that smoke when those other guys are about the same price. And Fatal, I think KJ is another one. KJ Osborne with Cousins, the dude's the WR2. Like, he is getting about an equal number of targets on the season to Addison, and he is definitely on the field more. He's that WR2. So when they go to, when they just go to two wide sets, it is Osborne on there, not Addison, or at least it has been so far. All right, let's talk about the second game. And I don't know why, but I'm a little more excited, I think, to stack up this game. And I don't know why, but in some ways, it's actually a bad game to stack. I'll talk about this as well. But I do like the Eagles in a competitive environment. Technically, all of their games have wound up competitive, but we haven't gone into them thinking they would be. This is the first time I'm kind of going into it going like, all right, they're taking on a pretty good Rams team. Hurts is great every single week. It's pretty solid what he does. Last week, I had my best lineup was a Hurts to AJ Brown lineup. AJ Brown went bananas last week. Usually these things kind of swing back and forth, but how are you guys looking at attacking this Eagles-Rams game with the caveat that the Rams wide receivers all seem wildly overpriced considering the return of Cooper Kupp? Like, you almost can't play any of them. Burns, what do you say?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And you nailed it right there. With Cooper Kupp coming back, this is going to muddle the waters of the Rams receivers.
They're not priced appropriately anymore. Like, they're all massively overpriced relative to what their target expectation should be now.
Yeah, exactly. And Nakua becomes second fiddle because when Stafford and Kupp were together, it was like 1-2, 1-2 all the time. And so Nakua becomes second fiddle now. And then Tutu Atwell is just, he's in the background going, hey, what about me? And then Van Jefferson becomes obsolete in this game. And it even probably lowers Higbee.
Pretty sure Van Jefferson became obsolete a couple weeks ago.
Oh, pretty much. But I mean, another guy that it actually hurts is Higbee, in a very good game for him. That could actually be a potentially good game for him because of the metrics and how bad Philly is against the tight ends. But it's just, this is a tough game to call with the Rams side of things. It was easier when Kupp wasn't in there. It was like Nakua's there. Hey, let's go.
Yeah, but, I think the play here is to not use anybody from the Rams, guys.
Yeah.
It's just they're not price appropriate. I
really don't understand the current projection for Kyren Williams in this game. He's at almost 23% projection. Philadelphia is elite against the run. If you want to play Kyron, do it at your own risk. But at 22.73 or 78%, almost 23%, he's a fade for me.
You know, it's funny. I feel like we always come into the show seeing some weird ownership projections. And then I'm always like, man, these are going to change by Sunday. And then they don't. And then they are really high. That is, I totally agree. Listen, Kyron Williams had a good week last week. That was great. And he's priced reasonably. And yeah, the Eagles, I think Kyron Williams is okay. He's going to get all the carries. You know, I don't hate it. I don't care what the defense looks like. It's fine. But, you know, we're going to talk about some really explosive running back spots, and that's not it. So, like, there are other spots, I think, to attack. Josiah, any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, like you said, fingers crossed that the ownership stays high because that's good for us. We know to zig in that situation a little bit. But no, I think Burns hit all the right points, and you did too, Geek. I'm not too excited about the Rams guys this week. They're priced up. I like having the data and knowing where the target share is going to be. Not having that freaks me out a little bit. So I'm not going to X any of these guys out of my player pool. If they show up naturally, I'm fine with it, but I'm not excited about any of the Rams guys. I am going to be very, very, very over on A.J. Brown this week, though.
Yeah, I mean, Brown, you know, my suggestion is like Brown, Smith, same shit. You know, I noticed that Brown is going to be 4 times as highly owned, or at least the current projection has Brown 4x the ownership of Devontae Smith. I don't think Brown is 4x a better player or likely to outscore Devontae, so I'll probably shift a little more of my action to Smith, just for that reason, sort of ownership. Because last week Brown outscored Smith, and the previous 2 weeks Smith outscored Brown. Like, that happens. That switches every single week. BobbyWow, any other games up here in the expensive zone? Any other quarterbacks popping for you? Or we covered Mahomes, we covered Cousins, we covered Hurts. Anybody else popping for you in the high price zone?
One quick thought first on the Rams, not to be overly contrarian, but I have legitimate interest in Cooper Kupp. I know he's priced up. He's going to be under 5% ownership, and he has 0 limitations, according to McVay. He was not going to go on IR until the last second, and McVay's been preaching this idea of returning to performance rather than returning to play. I think Cooper Kupp's a full go, and so to me, he's worth 10% exposure, 10 to 15% exposure in MME if you're looking to get different, because ceiling is high. I really believe that. So quick thought, just a quick thought there.
Tactics for you right there. A Cooper Kupp play, love it.
I mean, that's balls, because he's priced so high. It would have been nice if they gave us a 1 week bargain.
Never would play him. It's perfect. This is the opportunity right here.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
that's fair. Okay. All right. So let's talk about. You got to take your chances.
Yeah, you will take your chances.
I love your clips. I can't get over it so much. You talked about other quarterbacks in the high tier. Mentioned Kirk Cousins already. I think Tua is probably the other obvious mention. I'm not as excited about Tua, just given how the Giants have played, and Miami took a big step back last week. So seeing him double-digit ownership, I don't know. To me, there's better options above and below him, so I'm not as interested. I have a couple guys in the 5K range.
Well, we'll get to the cheapies,
but I want to hear from other people where they're at on the expensive side.
Yeah. So, Josiah, anybody else a pay up option that you're interested in, and this week, because we really just we've mentioned 3 quarterbacks so far.
Yeah, I like a lot of these guys top, to be honest. I like Lamar Jackson in this situation against the Steelers. The Steelers defense, I've been a little nervous to try and force playing offensive players against their defense, but the defense has not been that great this season so far against quarterbacks and wideouts. So more than happy to go with Lamar. You can play Andrews, you can play Zay Flowers with him. And then last but not least, I don't know if we're counting Anthony Richardson as one of the pay-up options, but he's definitely in play here as well. I see Burns nodding his head, so you can talk more about that if you want to.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson, he's in play every week. Yeah. He gets it with his legs. He gets it throwing. You could see him rushing in for 2 touchdowns here down by the goal line. Yeah, he's just an in the play every week type guy. He's kind of reminiscent of Fields from last year where, he's down and you're like, Jesus, man, is he ever going to score any points here, fantasy points? Then all of a sudden, boom, 30, 32. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm good now. So yeah, you got to have Anthony Richardson. I know he's an underdog in this one, but it's Tennessee just bleeds points to the passing game. They stuff the run. Zach Moss is going to become irrelevant in this game, and it's just going to force, Anthony Richardson to have to throw the ball. I love him pairing him up with Pittman this week, and I love running it back with Henry. I think Henry is in a great spot. Indianapolis is just not a good defense against the run. And, when Derrick Henry runs and he's running well, it is all cylinders go with Tennessee. So I like it.
Yeah, I'm not on Lamar at all this week, but I do like Anthony Richardson this and every week. Now, the Lamar thing for me is simply because Lamar, I have watched him for enough years to know, and the Ravens for enough years to know that if the opposing team isn't scoring, the Ravens will not press the issue. They'll sit back and enjoy their win, and they won't put Lamar in dangerous spots. So he doesn't do as well in those kind of non-competitive games. And I don't even know who's quarterbacking for the Steelers. The Steelers stink right now. Like, they suck.
It came out today. I think Kenny Pickett is going to give it a go. They're going to put a brace on the knee.
Even worse.
Yeah, it's just not a good situation there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, play some Ravens defense. That's the play from that game. I wish there was a running back on the Ravens I could get into, but I don't like that. But I do fully agree that every single week Anthony Richardson has to be in some lineups. That dude had scored 6 points at the half. I had staked my brand on Anthony Richardson last week. I was getting nervous. I was waiting for the avalanche of DFS Army cancellations that come when I make a core play and it doesn't hit. You guys have no forgiveness, by the way, whatsoever. You can never be wrong. So I'm like, oh man, brace yourself, right? But then it you blinked your eyes and Richardson is going bananas, and all of a sudden he's got 30 fantasy points in that game. So, I mean, listen, they did well in that fourth quarter, but I learned 2 things in that game. Number one, remember, this is a rookie who is a really weird and awkward thrower of the football. And, we're going to have these crazy swings. Number 2, play some Tennessee defense this week because Anthony Richardson is going to make mistakes. But 3, always have some exposure to this guy. Not sure if he's close in price to Mahomes / Hurts. Those are probably safer QBs for your cash lineup. But as far as in tournaments, Anthony Richardson has to be in your mix just about every single week. Until further notice, because he's not able to move the football efficiently just through the air. He has to run it, and they know that. So that's an interesting thing. Yeah, I don't have much else going on in terms of pay up options. So let's talk about some bargain quarterbacks that can sneak their way, a little sneaky, get in there, not expecting it, and all of a sudden, look who's taking a tournament down, right? You're looking for, is it Holmes? Is it Mahomes? Is it Hurts? No, it was this guy, right? So Burns, I'll start with you. Give me a cheapie that can help us win the Millie Maker this week.
One guy I think that could help us is Dobbs out in Arizona. Cincinnati's, they're very soft defense this year against the pass. He's just been doing it with his feet. He's been doing it through the air. He's got very nice stacking partners in this game. He's got Michael Wilson, who had a very nice game last week at 3.7K on DraftKings. And he's also got a really good wide receiver at 5K, Marquise Brown. I mean, it's just a great pairings there. And then you got Ertz in it, and then another RB in this game that I really love. There's 2 actually, but we'll get to that in the RB section. But another guy that I actually have been kind of clicking the button when I look at it is Danny Dimes. I mean, he can get it done with his feet. I know this offensive line is awful. I get it. But my gosh, this guy, if they can get it right in these last couple of days, from Monday night to Sunday, and they go down into Miami, and it becomes the Danny Dimes, Wan'Dale Robinson show. maybe even Waller in with it, and you might even have Barkley back in this game. I just like it. It just projects well. I know he's an underdog, and I don't really particularly like underdogs a lot, but Danny Dimes is a running quarterback, and he can just get it done. And he's got decent weapons in this game to get it done.
Man, one of those things about the Giants is you can't always look that bad. Like, teams are usually less bad than what they looked in their worst. And the Giants were absolutely at their worst last week. It can't be that bad. Now, like another 11 sacks, another this, or will the team be like, you know what, Danny Dimes? If we're starting to get sacked like this and you got no time, here are 5 plays that are a read and react, like, 2-step throw. Like, have some plays for the poor kid where he gets the football out of his hand on a 2, like, quickly. If the line can't block, right? That's it. So, BobbyWow, how about you? Where are we going for some low cost stacks that will help us win big tournaments this week?
Yeah, 2 spots I'll mention. One on the higher side of the low cost is Joey B. I've got some interest in the Bengals in the revenge tour for Burrow. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of hype, and so I think it's an interesting spot. The Cardinals stink on defense. I don't care what anyone says. It's a bad defense, and Joe Burrow. This is a make or break game for the Bengals. I have full faith in him that he's going to show out. I know T. Higgins is questionable, and so I don't mind just going right to Jamar Chase with all the exposure. So Burrow and Chase are going to be a big stack for me. And then on the cheap side, Zach Wilson, I think, is in play. He's lowest price quarterback going up against the Broncos, who we know are really, really bad. They get gashed by quarterbacks and pass catchers. And so, look, Zach Wilson looked like a top tier quarterback in the second half last week. I don't know why.
Hold up. He looked like an acceptable mid-level, not below average for a second NFL. He looked like, okay, he kind of belongs on the field, maybe. I'm not going to give him a top tier.
For one half, he looked extremely good. He was making passes, fitting in tight windows. Doesn't matter. All that to say, I think Zach's in play. The Broncos stink. They're throwing the ball more. And there's some easy stacks. Zach to Garrett to me makes a lot of sense, and even Zach to Lazard. So I don't mind going pay down route all the way down to Zach Wilson.
Don't forget Conklin.
Yeah.
Don't forget Conklin. Yeah. This might be the only game all year. Now, it might not be, but this may very well be the only opportunity all year to include Zach Wilson in an actual tournament stack. Like this, if you can't do it here, you can't do it anywhere. Like, the Broncos are the absolute worst defense in the NFL. It is not close. Their metrics are horrific. Even your beloved Bears, BobbyWow, are slightly better defensively than the Broncos as of right now. So if there was ever a time like, oh my gosh, I want Garrett Wilson, give me just 1 week where I can enjoy a Jets wide receiver being, in my DFS lineups. That's a nice thing. So I'm down with that. Josiah, did they miss anybody? You got somebody down here?
Yeah, they left
Bryce Young. You going a little Bryce? Keep it hometown.
No, we don't talk about Bryce Young anymore. He's in the past. But anyway, I think there's a few options left. So Jared Goff, I've been trying to pick on this Carolina Panthers team with the passing game. It hasn't been working as well. You've been able to pick on them via the run instead. But the second half of these games is when teams really start throwing the ball and they're able to put it together. The Lions at home, I think they can take advantage of this banged up Panthers defense finally. Amon-Ra, if he doesn't play, that does worry me a little bit, but I still like to play.
Yeah, he's effectively not going to play.
Yeah, I don't like that, but Laporta's there. Reynolds is there. There's some other viable
fire up Jameson, right?
Yeah.
He's back.
Yeah.
Jameson Williamson.
We'll address Jameson in the discussion.
We'll see.
Of the wide receiver group, because he becomes viable somewhat.
I like the Wilson call. The only other guy that we didn't talk about is Ryan Tannehill. The Colts have not been a great defense. Obviously, Tannehill isn't the kind of quarterback you love playing, but I like getting a little weird when it comes to quarterback play and attacking these bad defenses, and so I'm here for it. So I'll be playing some Tannehill, and that does mean I'll be playing some Hopkins too, Geek. I know you'll hate that.
Hate it.
He's super
Hate
cheap.
Hate
He's
Tannehill.
super cheap.
Hate Tannehill. Hate DeAndre Hopkins. Hate everything to do with the passing offense of the Titans. Hate a lot of this.
The sexy plays were gone, so I'm just going to hit you.
Yeah, that's fair. No, listen, you're right. But like, I think the name I was kind of thinking maybe somebody would spit out there was CJ Stroud. He's not making my pool this week, but that CJ Stroud has been a very good rookie quarterback on the season. It's not a good matchup at Atlanta. It seems like it's got destined to be, Atlanta seems destined to control this game via the run. Like, this is a bad matchup for Houston. This probably, but they've had a lot of bad matchups and they've beaten them so far. So I don't think you could just fully write this guy off. He's been very, very good, but this is this is a rough matchup for them because it does seem like Atlanta will be able to control the football via the run this weekend and just limit the opportunities for offense for Stroud and company. And Atlanta has an elite WR1, which takes Nico Collins for me out of the I can't remember his name, but it takes Nico Collins out of the mix for me this week as well. They've been really, really good against WR1s in particular. So if I was doing anything, it would be like on the Tank Dell side. You got to shift back over. Shift it back over to Tank Dell. But yeah, that effectively covers. I'm going with a very tight player pool this week at QB. Effectively, the three guys we mentioned up top, or four with Richardson, and then Milson and Dobbs. And I think Dobbs is my favorite of all of them. Yeah, Bobby, hold on. Bobby.
Wow.
Wait, did that work?
Wow. Seriously, yeah, it is a wow.
Yeah. I think Dobbs is my favorite of them all. I'm going to tell you why.
Jeez.
Yeah. The stack is so cheap to start with him and Marquise Brown that you can effectively almost get better exposure to those other sexy games. You could get Mr. Pfizer in your lineup. You can have Justin Jefferson in a lineup like that. You can do a lot of different things if you start with that super cheap stack. Do I like Richardson? With yes. I don't care about Taylor. I don't care about Moss. I don't care about any of that. Richardson is going to do his thing. I'm going to play him every single week from now unless his price rises up to the Jalen Hurts level. I will play him every single week, much like Justin Fields. Like, there's not really going to be too many times where I'm just not going to play that guy. These guys with the legs, they can do it in a lot of different ways. And speaking of legs, guys, one thing that people don't realize about Josh Dobbs, oh my God, Geek is talking about fucking Dobbs again, is that this guy has the legs. He has rushed for 48 yards. Here we go. 48 yards last week, 55, 41. So this guy is over 40 yards per game each of the last 3 weeks of the season. Listen, we dismissed week one. The guy had been packing groceries at the Kroger literally weeks before the season started. Give him a second, but he's a man with pride and he's trying really hard to win games. So I really like it. I think for tournaments, that's the way to go, to be honest with you. Like, if I had to choose one, but I also love the Milfson call that you guys put out there, because if there was ever a Milfson game, this is the time to do it. I think you stack him with two, you get Garrett in there, and you kind of find Tyler Conklin or one other person, or Breece Hall, who I think is stackable in that game as well. Yes. So
one thing I'll add about Dobbs is if that ownership starts to creep up, I'm jumping off. I like him as a tournament play, but if he starts to become a chalky play, I'm not on board anymore.
Should we shut up about it? Currently, he's at 3%. So let me show you a couple of names. You're not getting the chalk here, guys. If you want to find, donkey takes, there are other YouTube channels that you can go to and you will get those kind of takes. We're talking about players right now that have a 3% ownership projection. Zach Wilson at 1% owned. So we're not talking about, obviously we all know that Mahomes is good and Jalen Hurts is good and whatever. I mean, if Stafford is going to be up here in 7.8 ownership, maybe it's the time for Stafford. I don't know. Actually, maybe I don't hate that one that much. Actually, you know what? If there had to be one other cheapie to force in there, the return of Cooper Kupp, the difficulty of rushing on the Eagles, is the window open for? I'm telling. I just thought of this now.
Yeah,
is the window open for Matt Stafford?
Kupp scores touchdowns. He was a touchdown scorer when he was there healthy. So
he has a ton of weapons now too.
Oh man, yeah.
This is fair though. Neil is making a correct statement. It ain't gonna juice up anything over here, so it's all good. But
one other reason to play Stafford: the Rams and the Eagles are the top 2 pace teams in the league. There are going to be a lot of snaps.
Yeah, this is going to be a back and forth one.
Yeah. All right. Let's shift attention to the running back position for NFL Week 5. And I almost, if I show my Dom screen, I already have my smash adores, pressed on the running backs that I like. But one piece of news just came out that has elevated the chalky guy into super extreme, double dare physical challenge chalk. Little Nickelodeon reference from back in the day. I'm hearing now that Jahmyr Gibbs just showed up with a Q tag, which, I mean, if he doesn't play, or even if he does, but he's got the Q. I mean, I was already locked and loaded on Montgomery, but at this point, it becomes almost ridiculous. No?
Oh yeah, he's pretty much a lock play if that's the case. Where Gibbs is out, Montgomery's the smash play.
The projected ownership is not even right. I mean, these numbers are going to change. There's no way. Montgomery should be, I would think Montgomery should be, if Gibbs even in, Montgomery should be up around 30%. He's coming off 32 carries. Yeah, there it is. Alex, fucking Kanger, man. He always gets it. I love that. But 30 carries, BobbyWow. Too much? Too chalk?
We're getting a little too excited about David Montgomery. I think he's going to be chalky. He's going to be the bee's knees for everybody if Gibbs is. There are guys that are cheaper. We're talking about Joe Mixon is cheaper than David Montgomery. Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane is cheaper.
What the
Montgomery's
hell has Joe Mixon done to make me want to play him? But Montgomery just goes out and scores 2 touchdowns every single week.
Yeah, and Carolina has been really bad against the run here lately.
25% Monty at 6,600. I'm just saying. It's a little sketchy.
I get it.
Yeah. We know what BobbyWow would do. Fade the chalk. I like it. But nonetheless, I think that's good chalk. So, but let's start at the top of the range here and looking at the very, very elite tier in terms of salaries for the running backs. You have Saquon Barkley maybe coming back this week. Not sure how much I love the high ankle sprain return, first game back situation and paying top dollar. You've got Bijan, who, while in what I think is as good of a matchup as you will ever see for a running back facing Houston, is not getting in the game around the goal line at all. He's had 1 carry inside the 10-yard line all season. They are bringing in Tyler Algier. So it's the reason that Bijan hasn't been exploding, the reason we're not holding him in the Christian McCaffrey light right now is just because as great as he's been, they're just not giving him goal line carries and they're not really giving him 20 plus touches a game yet. Will that change here, Burns? Will that change here, Josiah? I don't know. But if it does change, man, look out. But for now, it's tough to pay up, a little bit tough to pay up for Bijan. No carries within the 10-yard line for Bijan. And then, of course, Derrick Henry, Shark Lab, who you mentioned before. I think that's a great spot.
Yeah, I love Derrick Henry this week. I think he's in a great spot against defense that has its problems against the run. And running it back with an A-Train, Pittman run back with Derrick Henry in this game. It's a very nice looking start of a lineup.
Absolutely. BobbyWow, are you living in the expensive running back zone this week? Are you going to hang in the middling value range or mixing it up? How do you feel about this position group in general?
If I'm paying up, it's Derrick Henry. No question about it. The next time Bijan hits value would be the first time. So I'm okay fading him until he proves me wrong. Like Derrick Henry's matchup, so I'm with Burns. He's the pay up guy this week. I'll have plenty of him.
Yeah, I think so too. Josiah, you're on the same page.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I will be around field weight on Bijan though, but I'm over on Henry.
This is a great question at running back. Boner alert. I think I know. I think I'll throw it up there when we talk about one of them. It should be Montgomery, really.
Oh my gosh,
it should be. But I've got a different one. I've got a different one. But all right, so let's take it down to the sub 7K zone, and we're going to talk about running backs priced between 7 and 5K. This is, I think, where you're going to live. Again, outside of the Derrick Henry play, you're going to live here this week. I already mentioned, and let me put them on screen, and I'll use the let's see, I'll use the DraftKings screen here. So I'm going to put these on screen. I'm going to blow this up a little bit too. Let's see if I can do that so you can see it. Oh yeah. Oh, look at that. All right. So hang on. People told me like the screen is too blurry. I'm like, I just got to make it bigger. That's all we can do. So taking a look at the running back position here between, we got Kyron Williams at the top, Montgomery, Chalk, Mixon in an actual very good spot. Maybe it's the time for Mixon. Kamara against the tough New England defense, but coming off 14 targets. Raheem and Devon, we know what they can do in a crush matchup. Swift, there's so many good spots here, even in the 6 to 7K range. And then you come down, Connor stands out. Breece Hall stands out. A couple nice plays here in the 5K range, although I'm not sure if I can see too many others that stand out there. But let's go around the room, guys, and take me through 3 running backs in this range that you like and why. And we'll do them one at a time. So I'll start with you, Josiah. Give me one of these guys and tell me why you're on them, your favorite of them all.
I'll start off by breaking the rule. My favorite running back on this slate is 5,400, but outside of that, Joe Mixon's my guy alongside David Montgomery, and like Mostert, A-Chain, like those plays are a little flimsy for me, but I'll have exposure. But it's mostly Joe Mixon and David Montgomery for me this week.
Yeah, and Montgomery, for obvious reason, you take Jahmyr Gibbs out, his ownership's going to go nuts. He's a touchdown machine, and they might even throw to him a little bit, especially now there's no Amon-Ra. So it's like, oh, they need to use these weapons even more that are at their disposal. So I get that. And Mixon is a little dangerous. Mixon's always dangerous. That dude is either screwing up or putting up 4 touchdowns. There's no in between with him, BobbyWow. Like,
and
he's either winning the tournament
bad this year too, so it's a soft matchup.
Yeah, I know you couldn't ask for a better matchup. Arizona is attackable via the run, and it's interesting with Joe Burrow's calf injury. He does not appear to be able to take snaps under center at all.
Man.
So I don't know how that affects the running game, but every single snap seems to be out of the shotgun because I believe he's not able to move backwards. I don't really know why they're doing that. BobbyWow, what's going on with that? What's going on with your boy Burrow? You like Burrow. The guy can't take a snap under center. So I need you to explain this to me.
Okay, I do like Burrow, but he's going to throw the ball no matter what. And Burrow, if we can trust anyone to power through it and to put up a good score, it's Burrow. At his price, with the obvious stack, that's why I like him. But again, I think Mixon's in an even better spot. So he's one of my flag plants this week. And hey, Kamara was my flag plant last week, and he paid off pretty well. I think he ended up in the nuts despite having 5 yards on 50 catches. But
all it took was 14 targets and 13 receptions to get you there.
Unbelievable.
Hey, with Carr, that is doable for Kamara.
Well, listen, Carr could not throw the ball past 10 yards. I don't understand what was going on in that game. I went back and watched it again, and I cried for I didn't have any Christopher Olave last week, in fairness, but I cried for everybody else's Christopher Olave exposure because you're watching, you're like, oh, let me play an expensive wide receiver. And like, listen, we don't know. You don't assume. We don't understand injuries. They don't reveal the information. So we don't know until you're watching the game like, oh, Derek Carr can't throw it more than 5 yards. I didn't know that. I wish I knew that before I played Christopher Olave in a lineup, because that dude, all of his stuff is beyond 5 yards. And there was no chance of him catching a pass. But BobbyWow, who is your flag plant? Say that again.
I don't know that I have flag plants per se, but Mixon will be one of my top exposures at running back, and then the other guy is Breece Hall. You know, we've heard that Breece Hall is no longer being limited.
Boner alert.
It happened.
It happened. He's in a great spot, and
Breece Hall,
he's
you
really,
said?
really cheap. So I love me some Breece Hall this week. He'll probably be my top exposure at running back.
Yep, agreed.
Oh, gotta love Breece Hall when the coach, who is not known to be a lying coach, says the reins are off. The snap count is no longer against the Broncos defense that just allowed Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane to put up 4 touchdowns each or some insane number that you've never ever seen before. So Breece Hall is such a good football player. We have not even tasted it yet this year. Like right now, you're like in your dynasty league, you're like, would you take Breece Hall for Bijan? No, of course I take Bijan. After this week, you're going to be like, Breece Hall is my untouchable forever. So I think we might see the real deal game from Breece Hall here. Burns, who are you planting your flags on this week at the running back position?
Well, you guys took really good ones. So I mean, another guy that I really like this week is James Conner. I think he's going to be way overlooked in a game against Cincinnati, who has not been good against the run. But, you know, Breece, I'm all on board with Breece. We talked about it yesterday, Kev. I mean, I'm just right there with you guys on this one. I saw this early in the week, and I was like, wait a sec. Breece Hall is going to be really under-owned against the Denver team that has just been gashing fantasy points to the running back position. Load up, because, you know, it could be that game where this is where all the points are scored, just like when Miami took over against Denver. All the points were pretty much scored outside of Tyreek, the running back position. So I like it, but, you know, James Conner, very good spot. Swift, very good spot. Mixon, amazing spot on paper. Let's see if he actually gets it done, which I think he can. You know, the Miami running backs, they're in great spots. There's just so many good spots. Montgomery. So, you know, you got a lot to pick from this week for sure. And, you know, there's an outlier there that not many people are talking about, but he's there. And I think this game could actually be more towards where they play the running back in this game, because the wide receivers are so spread out. The target share is so spread out, but Isaiah Pacheco in this game could be a viable resource for fantasy points for the Kansas City Chiefs this week.
I always love shitting on Isaiah Pacheco, but I ate so much crow last week that now I don't want to do the shitting on him part. I'm just not going to use him for myself, but I'm not going to sit here and publicly shit on the guy because I already ate. The crow was eaten. It did not taste good. The crow never tastes good. Edwards bust. No, I don't trust anything to do with the Ravens running game. Hill is back. Who the hell knows what they're up to over there? As far as Dalvin Cook goes, man, you got to have some big cojones to play Dalvin Cook. I like hoping for a replica of what the Miami did to them. It could happen, but I think Dalvin Cook is priced in the same range as actual starting running back, so I don't like that part of it. For me personally, one guy that we didn't talk about because we don't really know if he's starting is Matt Breida. I think Matt Breida is an acceptable play if Saquon Barkley was out. But listen, my flag plants plural. You guys nailed it. It's Hall. It's Conner getting all the touches for that team. Swift, Miami, and Montgomery for me. Mixon, Kamara, those guys are going to be sort of secondary for me personal. Mixon has burnt me too many times to ever feel like I want to put him in my high dollar or more than one kind of high dollar lineup. Like these other guys, I'll just keep clicking the button on over and over on. Mixon, I might do him in one, but I'm or two of like 5, maybe tighter builds that I put together, but he's not somebody I want in like a lot of my tighter builds because he just
Geek, what got you on Swift? I saw his ownership was pretty high, but I wasn't understanding it.
Yeah, Swift last week. If you look at what the Eagles did last week, we went into last week thinking, oh, he's in a 50-50 with he's in a 50-50 with is it Gainwell? Yeah. We went into last week thinking it's a 50-50 with Gainwell, and then he had something like 80% of the running back opportunities in last week's game. So my belief is, aside from the fact that how explosive of an actual talent Swift is, and I don't normally allow like the player's talent to creep too deeply into this stuff for running backs. I'm much more interested in opportunities, but Swift is actual good. And now he's getting like 70-75% of the running back opportunities on the high scoring Eagles offense that is in position to score frequently whenever they're in a game. See, what I'm looking for in my running back, and this is why certain running backs who are talented don't do well. I want the opportunities to be there for the running back, meaning he'll be in the game at important moments.
Mm-hmm.
I like it to happen on a team that frequently has scoring chances, right? This is why running backs from shitty teams always like the Giants running back. Saquon Barkley is a talented guy, but like where are the ceiling games from Saquon? Where is the game like what Christian McCaffrey's doing? Like where is that? He never has it because the Giants aren't a good team and they don't score a lot. So if they're going to score 3 touchdowns in a great game for them and he were to get 2 of them, that means he's eaten 80-70% of the touchdown opportunities for his team. Most running backs don't do that. The Eagles will score 5 times in a game. So if Swift is getting 30% of the touchdowns, it's like, okay, wait a second, that's 1 or 2, okay, but it's probably 1. You know what I'm saying? Like that gives him a reasonable chance of 1 touchdown with an outside shot at 2. That's what I'm looking for. I want the running back from the team that scores frequently. That's why Kamara is a problem this week. BobbyWow, I could love Kamara all day and again on Tuesday, but if he's scoring a touchdown, it's probably going to be because they throw him one of those passes and he just, he breaks it and no one's there. And it's kind of a broken play type deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Not nearly as high on him this week.
Well, rightfully so, right? The better defense on the road, quarterback can't throw, team can't get into scoring opportunities because the quarterback can't throw the football. So, Belichick knows it. He watched the tape last week. They're going to key in on that. So like a Kamara is not going to have scoring opportunities where Swift, who is basically kind of the same guy, but will have scoring opportunities. So you look at those scenarios and I just want my running back from a team that scores a lot, unless it's the Chiefs, because then they just throw for the touchdowns. I have not seen this, but I believe it. The dude is a superior athlete. Like you don't take running backs that early because they're, just they're really, really good. So I love him. I don't know. Is there any other running back stuff we need to discuss, or we want to talk about the wide receiver? Should we move on, guys? Flag plant. I'll just go flag plants. Your flag plant guy, just one name, Josiah.
Breece Hall.
Breece. Shark Lab. Flag plant.
Derrick Henry.
BobbyWow.
Breece Hall, Joe Mixon, since Josiah went Breece.
Yeah, Josiah doesn't determine your flag plant. You got to do what you got to do. But Hall, but you like Mixon as well. Okay, I love it.
Is yours Monty Geek?
It's Monty will be my highest own, but I love Hall too. So like I said, Swift. The names I mentioned, I will have a ton of. I'm just going to keep clicking those names. My flag plant maybe I'm probably going to play running back in the flex on DraftKings in a lot of my handcrafts anyway. I will play 3 running backs this week, because I like them and I think there's value there. And I think the wide receiver position might be a little thinner than we think. So let's talk wide receiver a little bit here and we'll get into no. I'm not planting any flag on McLaughlin. Hell no. No. Against the Jets? No. All right, let's talk wide receivers. And again, we're going to go elite, middling, and then low cost. What am I?
No, I'm just thinking like we need a Sarah McLachlan little commercial short to play.
Oh, that would be so good
for the next couple weeks.
You know what? If Jaleel McLaughlin is still a thing next week, we may get the old what is it?
Angel song.
Yeah. We'll get the one the Stray Pets song.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me a minute to remember what the hell her song even was, but I know what you're talking about.
All right. And Kev, when we were talking yesterday about Blake Lively, someone threw a movie reference to me where I was like, oh yeah, The Town, where she was Affleck's girlfriend in that one.
I'm not sure that I've seen that.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good one.
Is it? I don't think I've seen it. Listen,
bank robbery movie.
I watched every episode of Gossip Girl though.
Oh fuck that shit.
No one else.
Louise.
No one else.
I've seen it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Design knows
Girl.
what's up.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
like, isn't that the CW's flagship show or something?
It was. Listen, when that show came out, when me and my wife were probably young, early married, just first married or something, we would watch the show to get we didn't even have kids yet. Like we just had a lot of time to watch TV. There's a lot of TV watching back in the day. Okay.
Gossip Girl and chill, Geek. That was your lifestyle.
Did you have tissues with you and stuff too?
For crying?
Yeah.
It wasn't that kind of show.
No,
okay.
not Gossip Girl.
Yeah, you haven't seen it, but there's an evil dude who I enjoyed named Chuck on that show, and he would always have some scheme that would an evil scheme that was manipulating everybody. It was pretty cool. He gave off a Littlefinger vibe, so I kind of like that.
Wow. It was Gilmore Girls for us.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's way worse than Gossip Girl. I'm sure. It's a lot worse. Although I watched Felicity from the WB with the wife.
Yeah, I watched that shit too.
You watched that shit?
Yeah. And
Felicity,
the Dawson's River kids when you were in high school.
Man,
oh my god.
Yeah, there it is. You remember. Listen, guys, if you enjoy this type of content, please don't hit the dislike button. I know I said I watched Felicity. I know I deserve a smash dislike for that one.
Yeah, but Carrie Russell, man,
I feel like Geek was a Days of Our Lives guy at some point.
No, never anything like that.
Well,
never a soap opera. I couldn't get into anything like that. I watched a lot of TV though back in the day. And speaking of TV, and I know no one watches this show, and you're gonna be like, you're a fucking dork, but The Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime is fucking awesome. And it just completed season 2. And oh my God, when you talk about a show that levels up from season 1 to season 2, I can only hope that their Lord of the Rings version of a show does the exact same thing, because season 1 was ass on that show. And I hope that somebody over there changes it up and makes the transformation like what happened in Wheel of Time, because season 2 was fucking awesome. And I'm like, wow, how did this show completely change? So
you're giving me hope.
Yeah. The Rings of Time or whatever the Rings one was, the Lord of the Rings one, sucked season 1, and I love that stuff. So I was so disappointed. I really hope they level it up season 2. Yeah, seriously. You know what? He's right. Wheel of Time. Wait. Uh-oh.
Boner alert.
Legit may rewatch this season. That's how good it was. I'm just I'm gonna watch it a second time. That's how good I enjoyed it. All right. Anyway, we're talking wide receiver. Hit the like, subscribe, notification bell, sign up DFS Army promo code Geek gets you 10% off. You want all these tools? The tools that take down the domination station, the domination station optimizer. By the way, for DFS Army subscribers, we have an update coming to the Dom station that you guys are gonna fucking love. I'm testing it now. But one of the first things is for the showdowns that you can now use positions. So you can just say stack QB with WRTE, same team. You don't have to use the player names anymore. So that's a convenience one. But I've got a couple of really my personal design options that I haven't tested yet. So I don't even want to talk about it until I test it and make sure it works as I want. Because a lot of times I come up with these things and then they don't quite do what I'm hoping. So I hope it does what I want. But you'll find out more about that probably going into next week. We're going to test it this weekend, and then we'll talk about that update that's coming out on Monday for all the people. You will love it. All right. So we're talking wide receivers, Justin Jefferson. So let's talk about the upper echelon, the top tier of the wide receiver group, guys. Jefferson, Hill, Cooper Kupp, BobbyWow. You mentioned him, Brown, Chase, Puka. I mean, I could really go through these and really just give notes on every single one. But instead of that, I just want to, let's go through with you guys and throw out the stack for a second. This is not a stacked lineup, but rather standalone pieces that you're willing to put in lineups that don't have anything to do with this player at the high end position. So I'll start with you, BobbyWow. We're comparing Jefferson and Hill and Cooper Kupp and Chase Brown, all these guys, right? Everybody, let's call them from Devontae and above. Olave's unplayable. Higgins, it's like this is just dead zone, right? 69, 66. Look how the salaries work. You can't play these two guys. And then you've got Devontae Smith up to Jefferson, 2K sort of range here. So BobbyWow, is there anybody in this group that you're clicking the button on without their quarterback in the lineup?
Oh, man. Yeah, I think so. To me, Jamar Chase is far and away the best play of that group. And I almost hope T. Higgins plays. I think he might be a better play if T plays. But either way, Jamar Chase is the top dog for me. And I don't need to pair him with Burrow necessarily at 7,900. So he's the standout for me. Justin Jefferson also, like Tyreek Hill, his ceiling's great. But he had a dud last week. And I feel like he lets us down more than Jefferson does. So if I'm going up to 9K, I'm paying for Jefferson. So it's Chase for me, and then JJ.
I love that you said Chase, because I think of this entire group, that's the guy that is probably playable just as a standalone. I don't think I could play Burrow. I know you're going to do it. I don't think I can stomach it, but I just don't think I can. I just can't do it. But Chase stands out as a guy who's probably going to get 14 targets in this game. And 14 targets, he doesn't have to go nuts. He could just get there. And he's certainly cheaper than Hill and Jefferson, to the point where it's enough savings to make it worthwhile. Burns, what about you? This zone, I mean, are you in agreement? It's like Chase or bust, or is there anybody else you're pulling the trigger on as a solo play? Maybe Waddle.
Yeah, I mean, Waddle's in a great spot too. I'll talk about him a little bit more, but I'm in agreement with Bobby. Chase is the guy for me. He's the one that I'm clicking the most as I'm hand building lineups. But if I'm gonna build on any site with Waddle this week, oh my gosh, this might actually be a misprice on FanDuel, but he's 6,800 on FanDuel. Wow. And that might actually be a misprice, because I've never seen him below 7K on FanDuel ever. And this is the first time he's under 7K. It's almost like he's too cheap on that site where he can't be in your lineup. So
first, Alex, expand on this. Did Chase complain about his targets other than saying I'm always open, which was interesting? I just want to hear that. So Burns, you're looking at you're spying a little FanDuel salaries this week.
Yeah, when I was building, I was like, oh my gosh, how does he even that low? I mean, he's down there with some guys that aren't even close to what Jalen Waddle is.
Some of the FanDuel receiver. Yeah,
and Waddle disappointed some last week. So I like the play too.
Yeah, Waddle will go low on, by the way, Darren Scoggins. That is for sure. Like, you're not going to see more than 4 or 5% ownership. The argument for me on Waddle is just that, hey, Hill has been feasting every single week, and quarterbacks, they legitimately want to keep their wide receiver's head in the game. So when one guy's sort of not getting attention and then the quarterback wakes up and realizes it, they're like, oh, what perfect opportunity to feed your boy than when you're taking on a non-competitive Giants team where you could basically just go out and have fun. Like, they're just going out playing backyard football against the Giants, touchdown passes, like what they did against the Denver, where they were just being ridiculous. They're planning their touchdown dances. Like, they're spending right now, Miami, the Dolphins players are spending as much time practicing their coordinated touchdown dances as they are practicing for the game. They're like, we're probably going to get to do 4 or 5 of these dances. We got to get ready. They got Abby Lee from the Dance Moms coming down, doing a little choreography, getting those dance moves prepared. Did you guys see the footage? You realize I'm referencing that Denver game where, like, they're up like 70-7 and they're still doing. I'm like, man, how many dances do you guys have? They're like, oh, we got them. We got a lot of these. They're coming out, there's 7, 8, 9 players all in perfect coordination. they'd win a competition doing that stuff. But it is the perfect opportunity to field the guy that hasn't really been fed yet this season. Hey, Waddle, we didn't forget about you. Let's give you a good game. Even Tyreek Hill's like, you know what? Throw it to Jalen. Let's give Jalen some good times. All right, so let's go back to the screen share here, guys. And of this whole group, we talked about it. Chase, really the only one probably standalone play. Jefferson, I'm probably playing based in game stacks more likely than not. And Hill probably more of a game stack guy, although I don't hate it. Brown, definitely a game stack guy with Hurts. Puka, I don't think he's playable at all, really, at this price. And then you come to Waddle, Higgins. These guys are unplayable as well. So we kind of have this top section, and then we start with Pittman and work our way down. And there's not that many viable names here between 6,500 and 6K. Like, it's not a giant list, and 5K. So in referencing this group, and I'll start with you, Josiah, give me 2 wide receivers in this group that you are very high on, that you call them your core wide receivers. I only need 2 because I don't want to take them all. So you give me 2 that you absolutely love and tell me why.
Yeah, so I'll give you one chalky one that I love, and it's Garrett Wilson, like some people are already saying in the chat. Love the spot. We've been picking on Denver all year. Some sneakier plays that I like that I know you're going to hate already is Jerry Jeudy playing out of the slot against the Jets.
Hate.
I don't like to pick on guys going against the Jets, but the Jets have struggled this year against slot wideouts, and I think Jeudy could be a little sneaky here. So I like him. And
I unfriend you. That's not how it.
I knew it was coming. So I'll just stop there.
All right, that's your 2. That's right. I gave you 2.
Yeah,
you got Wilson, and you're going game stack. You're stacking Wilson against Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah,
acceptable. But
I unfriend you. That's not how.
That's for going up against my beloved Jets. Burns, give me 2 flag plant wide receivers that you love. If it overlaps with Josiah, you can overlap. That's cool.
We're talking about just from 6,300 down to 5K.
Yeah, in this zone.
Okay. Marquise Brown in that Arizona game, pairing him up with Josh Dobbs in this game is a very low salaried stack to start. And then you have the ability to add in like a high priced running back like Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, or you go middling with the running backs and go much more higher with your wide receivers. This is just a great pairing there. And then if I had to go with a second one, I do like this. I do like the WR2, WR3 in this game. I'd go Jordan Addison in this game of Minnesota. I know everybody loves Jefferson, rightfully so. Jefferson is the man, but Jordan Addison, he could get some significant run in this game. Him and Hawkinson, I could see them two being really good pass targets for Cousins in this game against a defense that has actually been better than expected this year against the pass.
I like it. I like the Addison call. Great tournament upside there in a game we're trying to target, but a low-owned guy. BobbyWow, 2 players in this zone that you will be clicking that button on more than any others.
I'm going to give you 3 because one's a repeat. Garrett Wilson is the top guy for me. And then you're not going to like it, but I'm chasing upside here. I like the idea of ping-ponging DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Pittman.
That's crazy talk, bro.
I really do.
Hopkins, for real?
He's 5,100 Geek. And you know what? It's a great matchup for both those guys. So 5,700, I'm taking my chances. I know. I get it. I don't blame you for not liking it, but something about that game and those 2 guys is exciting for me.
What is this?
I'm not a fan.
I'll add, when you look at those matchups too, this is the softest matchup Hopkins has had yet.
Has it mattered?
I mean, it could this week.
Yeah, I'm not.
I can't wait to revisit this next week.
Listen, far be it from me. I like to sometimes listen, I give my opinions, right? But they're wrong very, very frequently. So what are you going to do, right? Like BobbyWow, after this, it creeps in my mind. And of course, last week I'm like, add more Kamara, add more Kamara, add more Kamara, until to the point where I had it was like one of my highest owned running backs last week. Because listen to you. So that's fine, but I don't think it's necessary to have the bring back. I do like that you mentioned Pittman, though, because Pittman, I think, will be very low owned. And, he that's as good of a matchup as he will have all season. He's got a 28% target share in this offense. If Richardson comes out and is just throwing the football 40 times again, you can expect that 12 of those targets will go to Michael Pittman. He's a little pricey for the quarterback talent level, arm talent level to produce that 25, 30-point wide receiver. A little pricey for it, but I do like him in my in a Richardson lineup. I don't think I can stomach playing him standalone. You guys nailed it. I am going to be core on Marquise Brown.
Yeah.
Of this group, this is my favorite player of the group. I just want you to note the target numbers. 10, 7, 10. Forget the first week. So he's averaging 8.5 targets at 5K. What more can we really ask of a player? He's incorrectly priced at 5K on DraftKings, in my opinion. He should be a 6,500. There's no difference to me in the target expectation, in everything between him and Michael Pittman or Jerry Jeudy. I will play Marquise Brown over Jerry Jeudy all day long. I'm going to tell you some other names that I don't like. I like to live in the negative. I've told you this many times. I live in the negative. But Zay Flowers is another one I like a lot. So if I have to flag plant on somebody that's not Garrett Wilson, because you guys got him, for me, it's Marquise Brown and Zay Flowers down here. Zay Flowers has a spectacular matchup against a Pittsburgh team that cannot stop the pass. There is just a lot of reasons to like Zay Flowers here. I don't believe in Rashad Bateman. And so I just think that it's Flowers or bust a little bit. Of course, Mark Andrews is going to suck up a lot of that work. But I also don't think that we're going to see a lot of Lamar Jackson running the football in what I think will be a smash game for Baltimore's offense. So I think it's a little spot where Flowers at this price can pop off. But I do like
Flowers.
I like Marquise Brown more, and I probably like Garrett Wilson more.
Mm-hmm.
Warnings on Nico Collins. He will be going up against an elite cornerback and a really, really good pass defense. So I'm not sure that we'll get that pop game from Nico again. Doesn't mean I will refuse to play him. I just don't love it. Cortland Sutton, to me, is just a terrible play against the Jets pass defense. I don't get it. Why would you play him? And then Tutu Atwell is actually interesting, but his price with Cooper Kupp coming back is just not appropriate. I don't know if this guy will get any targets. So for the most part, he's out. Feeling another one. I don't trust him with Bryce Young at the helm. He's not scoring enough points in these games to really justify the 5K salary. He's almost there. Maybe, but probably not. So for the most part, Brown, Flowers, Wilson in this zone for me. And then everybody else is kind of just okay. This is one of the reasons, and somebody was in the chat asking about running backs. I think that there are tight ends in this exact salary range that I like better than most of these wide receivers. So take a look at this, guys, and just think of the numbers as we're going. Hawkinson at 6,500, I think I like him better than any wide receiver at 6,500. And Andrews at 5,500 is probably a better play than Zay Flowers at 5,500.
Yep.
I don't know what to do with that, but I think that Laporta at 5K is as good of a play to me as any 5K wide receiver this side of Marquise Brown. So, this is a weird week at wide receiver where I think the tight ends are probably just as good in terms of how many targets they should get and how many touchdowns they might score compared to any wide receiver in the same. I mean, no? Am I missing something here, Burns? Am I wrong?
Right. These guys that are at the 5K range for tight ends, I mean, you nailed it. There's not that great of a wide receiver core on that 5K salary range. So, yeah.
I mean, again, I like Hawkinson better than Pittman. No question. I think these tight ends are actually better than their respective wide receivers at those position groups, which again is making me think that this is a week where wide receiver in the flex may not be the move. I never say that on DraftKings. And again, it's too early. I'm not saying like I'm definitely on that, but I'm just saying right now, when I've constructed my lineups, I tend to put a running back in there. And now I'm starting to think that maybe I should put a tight end in there too. It's a weird one. Let's move over to the tight end position, guys.
Cool.
Wait, you're right. Holy shit, I totally forgot the cheap wide receivers, and they're actually really important. Sorry, BobbyWow.
No, it's okay.
Thank you for your reaction reminded me. Yeah, I totally forgot the low end wide receivers, which is the most important part of the wide receiver group. All right, so let's go sub 5K guys at wide receiver, and give me two names between like our punt. Yeah, why the reason I break these up by price levels is because that's how I build lineups. It usually has an expensive, a middling, or two middling, and a cheap wide receiver, right? You have certain cadence on DraftKings for building your lineup. So, BobbyWow, I'll come back around to you here, and let's go sub 5K. Give me three names of wide receivers that you're clicking on, all the way down to three.
I think for me, it starts with Josh Reynolds. He was a full participant in practice yesterday, and Amon-Ra is going to be out. He's been good to us, with exception of 1 week. He's looked like he's part of the offense. He's been involved. His target share is massive, and so that price to me is too cheap on him. Jameson Williams, I think you can make the same argument for. It's a little scarier. Reynolds is safer. I think they both have a similar ceiling. But one of the guys I'm really interested in is Alan Lazard.
He's
3,900. He looked good last week. Him and Zach Wilson seem to be developing a little bit of chemistry. You saw it on the sideline as well. So we talked about Zach Wilson being a decent play. I really like pairing Wilson with Lazard against a horrible Broncos defense. So that's probably where I'm going.
I like it. I think this is ballsy. I think there's some, Pat Surtain limits Garrett Wilson a smidge, and maybe they have to throw it to Lazard a smidge more, or some scenario like that. Plus, it's the worst defense, so YOLO. I mean, there's like that part of it too. So I really hadn't thought about Lazard as a playable guy this week, but I'm glad you're mentioning him because, there are quite a few interesting plays here. I mean, even in the chat, I'm seeing a lot of names. Guys, hit us in the chat, of course, with your favorite sub 5K wide receivers. Burns, where are you going this week at sub 5K?
Sub 5K, I think you can go right back to Boyd this week. He kind of dudded out last week in a pretty good matchup against Tennessee. I think you can go right back to him here. If Higgins is out, it kind of opens that middle of the field as well for him. And at lower than that, you got your Michael Wilson's at 3.7K. He's a good play here. But I also like Rashee Rice this week, pairing him up with Mahomes. Very cheap stacking partner with Mahomes, and he's just a big-bodied guy. So, for sure.
Really good names. I see flying out in the chat. Westbrook Akine, Rashee Rice is popping up here. So really good. Some really good names popping up. Yeah. Peyton likes Terrace Marshall. I'm not sure I want to get on that Panthers.
I would watch out for Terrace Marshall. He did get an increase in targets with Mingo out last week.
Will Mingo be back?
Yeah, he should be.
Yeah, there you go. How about you, Josiah? Give me a couple of these sub 5K guys that you're into. There's so many that are viable.
Yeah, I liked a lot of the ones that Burns and Bobby mentioned. I don't think we talked about Wan'Dale Robinson yet, but he had a really strong week last week. He's only 3K. I think he's definitely popping into quite a few of my lines too. Only other guy, Robert Woods at 4K, could be a little sneaky too. I know BobbyWow is like, no, but I have a little bit of exposure to him.
Yeah, I mean, I like those calls. So for me, Wan'Dale Robinson is my favorite of them all. He's a core play. I'll have him in many, many lineups this week because at 3K, The number one wide receiver for any team is a spectacular value. And here's the thing with Wan'Dale. He's the best wide receiver on the Giants. The Q tag is gone. He came into the season injured. They've slowly worked him back into the lineup. And we saw on Monday, after he was priced on DraftKings, that he was extremely involved in that offense. He got, I think, 5 or 6 targets in that game, got the snap count up over 60%. I think that continues to increase. And I think you are locked in with Wan'Dale to 4+ targets. Could it get to 6, 7, 8? Yes. But I think at the bottom, the target floor for me is probably 4 or 5. And that's more than what I need for a 3K player. So that's it. Like on a week, if I need to go down and pay down so I can afford, a Justin Jefferson in a lineup or some situation like that, or Jalen Hurts you cannot make a lineup unless you have 2 3K level players in your lineup when you use an expensive quarterback. You simply cannot. Try to make one, you can't. So for that alone, I need a 3K guy. Wan'Dale is my absolute go-to this week. I love it. Moving up from there, and you guys mentioned some great ones, but I'm just going to reiterate Wilson on the, I'm talking about the Cardinals passing offense a lot today. Wilson on the Cardinals passing offense looks pretty good. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there with Rondale Moore, but he's kind of in that same price range as well. And then, of course, we got to figure out what's going on with some of these injuries, and of course the Reynolds and some of the guys you mentioned like Boyd. So I think this is a plethora of good value spots in the sub 5K zone relative to not a very great amount of value spots, between 5 and 6.5. And so I think we're going to live in this zone a little bit this week with at least one spot in our lineups. Yeah, I'm not doing that. So I haven't seen from Jalen Hyatt where he does play. He's on the field, but I haven't seen where they feature him. I do see that they're running plays specifically for Wan'Dale Robinson. Like he's the first read on the plays. And if you watch Daniel Jones play, he does not make it to the second read. Like, last week he didn't have enough time to get to the second read. But I don't even know if he knows how to get his eyes off of his first read. So, like, that's not a guy that's going to throw too often away from who the play is designed for. And they design plays for Wan'Dale. That's why I like that spot a little bit more than maybe a Hyatt. But yes, you're right. I did say it. So, the reverse jinx, so to speak. All right, let's talk. I think that's it for the wide receiver position for us. Let's get a brief discussion of tight end going. And this, again, it's a tale of expensive and cheap as usual. We talked about the high end of the range already. You've got, I would say, all three of Pfizer, Hawkinson, and Andrews, all P-Swift, Pfizer, Swift. I don't know. Let me work on that. I'm going to work on something. I'm going to work on P-Swizz, Pfizer, Swift combo. But all three of those guys are probably better or just as good as any wide receiver priced at the same price. After that, Laporta, who I didn't necessarily love going into the week, if you're going to take away Amon-Ra, who operates in the same part of the field as Amon-Ra? Laporta. That's the guy who does that. He stands to benefit the most. Yeah, BobbyWow, I think he benefits more than Reynolds and the other guy. I think it's Laporta whose target share spikes.
Yeah, 5K. It was a great play. I love that call.
Yeah. Normally I wouldn't play him there. Like if you've got the full team in effect, but I think that this spot he takes over for Amon-Ra, and he's basically Amon-Ra at a discount. I'm going to go around here just like real briefly because I don't want to spend too much time at tight end. Do we have a preference here in this upper echelon group, or it's just based on the QB and the matchup or whatever?
I think I'd flag plant on Hawkinson this week in that high-end salary range, followed by second probably Kelsey, but, I'll leave Pfizer's alone. But, yeah.
Mr. Pfizer?
Yeah. I don't know. I think Waller's also in a good spot this week. He could go under-owned. He could be in and around about 5% or less. But yeah, Laporta's great call too. So
Do you like Ertz at all, Burns? Like, I feel like watching Ertz play is painful, but he
It is.
gets the targets. So, like, curious to see what
he
you're doing
does. He's super cheap. I mean, he's $3,200. Gosh, payoff value. He's got to get what 12 to 15 points in and around there. Yeah, he's just so super cheap. But I've been paying down. When I pay down, I kind of click a couple of guys. He's one of them. Another guy that I click is Conklin in the Jets game. But another guy that is starting to take over the target share of the tight end situation in Atlanta is Jonnu Smith. And he is so super cheap. He's 2.9K. But he's actually, his target share is like, his targets are really high compared to Pitts. Look at the targets in this guy.
You know what? It's impressive.
Yeah. And Houston's not very good against tight end.
That's
Wow,
so painful, but it makes sense. It makes sense.
It's painful, and I get it.
You know who this is the most painful for?
You?
No, people who took Pitts.
Yeah, I know.
The Pitts
right?
believers.
Yeah.
Why are they throwing at this guy? My take on you basically covered my take, possibly Burns, because we did a show where we covered this exact same position group yesterday. But yeah, I mean, Ertz, you mentioned Ertz, Josiah. Ertz, do you know what his target share is? Do you know what the actual percentage of the targets on that team without looking that go to Zach Ertz is?
No, not the top.
All right. For a wide receiver, in order to be super elite on a team, we want about a 30% target share or something in that range. Ertz is at 28% on the season. This dude is getting elite wide receiver targets. Another noteworthy thing about Arizona is like they're not even throwing that many people. It's basically Ertz, Brown, the running back, and Wilson. Like they are not spreading that football around. So Ertz is sitting on like a 28% target share on the season. It is spectacular. Last week, if he just gets in the end zone, he gets you about 20 fantasy points, and his salary would have spiked here. Like he almost got a touchdown last week. It was really close. If he catches that touchdown, we're looking at like 4,800 for Ertz.
I get it, and I'll have exposure to him, but my recommendation is to not watch the game. You do not want to watch Zach Ertz play. You'll question why you ever played him.
They call him Zach No Yak.
Yeah,
I'd say
so stiff.
Yeah, I'm so with you on that, Josiah. Like he is so hard to watch. Another guy that you could probably be, clicking the button on. He's in a good spot as Goddard this week with Philly. So
no one's going to play Goddard too. That makes an interesting alternative to all of these other spots at low ownership. BobbyWow, plant me some flags.
It's Mark Andrews for me. Mark Andrews and Laporta are the top two guys. I mean, Andrews and Lamar are back in sync. 5,500 for Andrews is insanely cheap. I think he had 2 touchdowns last week too. He 5,500. That's all. I love him. He's my flag plant. And then Laporta next. One other guy I'll mention too is Higbee. We've been distracted by Cooper Kupp and Puka. I think Higbee gets lost in that a little bit. He had 11 targets last week. This game is awesome for fantasy production purposes, and Higbee's up there for me as well.
4,100. Yeah, he's right in that zone. I like it. Any other final thoughts on the tight end position before we move on?
I'll just add my flag plant being Laporta and Conklin, but nothing different.
I like it. Yeah, and nobody mentioned Conklin, or it was mentioned, but not super strong. I like that you're planting flag there. Conklin pretty locked into 5 or 6 targets at sort of the bottom end of the range. So at 3,200, it's just volume. Give me 5 targets, 50 yards. Okay. You got me 10, 11. Miracle touchdown mixed in. You got a 17. That's winning tournaments. It's really just like, is this the game where he catches the touchdown? And if it is, you probably have a tournament worthy score there. All right, let's move on and talk defense. I don't like to spend too much time on the defense, but because it's such a volatile position. But Burns, what's the Shark Lab pointing to in terms of some defenses? Shark Lab loves to pay up for defense.
I mean, it's kind of weak this week. I mean, you got some really good defenses in the pay up zone. One of my favorites in the pay up zone is Detroit against Carolina coming in. Statsational has Carolina projected for like 40 or 50 yards on the receiving or on the rushing end, and their receiving projections very low too. So I like Detroit this week. I also like with a little pay up. It's not much of a pay up, but it's up there. I like Atlanta with Houston coming in. Yeah, Stroud's been throwing the ball quite a bit, but Atlanta's got a really good DB in this game, AJ Terrell, and
that's the name.
He's been locking down the side of the field. He's going to lock down Nico Collins in this game, no doubt about it. So that's just going to be Schultz and Tank Dell and Damian Pierce in this game. I think Atlanta could have a really good game in Atlanta. So for the lower end salaried, I'm gravitating a bit to Tennessee. Yeah, it's a really low salaried defense, 2,400. But another defense I like this week is the Steelers. They just project well. And then obviously at the 3K range, I really like the Jets this week and the Patriots. And I think
yeah. I was gonna say it's interesting because a lot some of the people in the chat are calling out Steelers as well. I think in the salary, it's fine to play anybody who's a cheaper defense like that. Although I think their horrible offense really harms their ability to just the defense is just on the field too much in a sense, and they start to get tired. Like there's too many opportunities for opposing offense if that Steelers offense is going to be as terrible as they've been. But yeah, the Steelers will every once in a while win you a tournament, I suppose.
Yeah, and they kind of play better at home too. The crowd gets behind them and stuff. So, but they're going to be a little bit lower owned in terms of like Tennessee's ownership. I think Tennessee's ownership is going to be 10+%. But Miami's going to be pretty high too. So with the Giants going in there,
I think there are some other ones, and some of the chat called out. Guys, call out your favorite defenses in the chat for this week. There's some other really good ones here. BobbyWow, where are you looking as far as team defense this week?
I think for me, it's in the middling zone. It's kind of a muddy week for defense, so I'm not excited to pay up. I like the Jets and the Patriots again. I think they're both interesting, and then the Titans as well. The Titans for me are the pay down option, and I'll have a good amount of exposure to them too.
I like it. Josiah.
Yeah, the only one that we haven't talked about that I'll have some exposure to is the Cardinals defense against Joe Burrow. He's just been looking rough lately. Definitely some risk involved there. If Burrow decides to, but if he's starting to feel a little bit healthier, that won't be a pretty picture. But assuming he's still going to be hurt, I think the Cardinals are fine here.
Yeah, as I look at the pay up options, none of them really jump off the page like, oh, I really want to spend. Like, there's no Dallas hanging out up there knowing like, hey, there's a 35-pointer waiting in the wings here, but I got to pay $4,700, for the privilege of knowing if that's going to happen. So I do think you kind of have to work your way down on the less expensive ones. And I think the Patriots stand out above pretty much all other teams. If the Saints are going to roll out, half-assed version of Derek Carr, like full version of Derek Carr is kind of half-assed. You give me a half-assed version of Derek Carr, that is just a recipe for disaster in New England. I don't think that works out very well for them at all. So I like the Patriots there. I don't mind, of course, the Jets on the road, though I prefer teams like the Jets at home. And then, yeah, you guys nailed it. I mean, if I'm paying down, it's, 2,400. This will be a button I click a lot, not because I think the Titans defense is that great. They're not bad, but mostly because I just think Anthony Richardson, as much as I love him, and you guys know I'm obsessed with Anthony Richardson, but he's going to turn the ball over. He's going to throw an interception. Like, that's just what a rookie quarterback's going to do. And so you give me a $2,400 defense with some turnovers. Maybe they bring one back for a touchdown. You don't have to ask for that much. And of course, like if the Giants implode again, I think you almost have to play whatever defense is facing the Giants until they show that they can get less than 11 or 12 sacks in a game, because you have that kind of number. You're going to be in a lot of trouble. Kang, do you really need a cornerback if the opposing quarterback can only throw it 10 or so yards without any kind of zip? I don't think cornerbacks matter. I don't think it matters. Who cares who's the corner? I could play corner against the Saints right now. I'll play safety. I'll be the deep over the top safety. Why? Because the quarterback can't throw it more than 10 yards. Now, of course, he could be healthier and better, and maybe that what if that's not the case anymore? Then the best laid plans of mice and men will go astray. But assuming that Carr still can't throw the football, why not? I think the Titans will be my highest owned personally, guys. All right, final thoughts. NFL Week 5. I'll start with you, Burns.
Oh man, I think we said it. It's probably going to be a three RB slate for DraftKings. So, make your adjustments on the domination station where you kind of flip your percentage of running backs in the flex position this week. So
I like it. BobbyWow, final thoughts.
Yeah, I like the idea of double tight end this week. I think we got a ton of value with tight end. Typically, we don't love going there, but this week is a perfect week for double tight end. And my other thought is we don't often get slates like this where we can keep a really tight player pool and get a bunch of leverage. I think this is one of those slates where we need to be looking to keep the player pool tight at every position. That way we can get a ton of leverage on the field, no matter where we are. So player pool tight and double tight end for me.
I love it. Josiah, final thoughts. Turn off the mute. We can't hear those thoughts with the mute button on, my man. It's still on. You still got the mute. I'm going to unfriend you in a second. I unmute you.
Oh, that's awkward. I was basically just saying I agree with BobbyWow and Burns, so that's fun.
All right, I'm going to give you a math thought as my final thought. And it's just a little math equation. Okay? You play an $8,000 quarterback and we're trying to get a 250 score. He's got to get 8, 16, 24, 32 to keep pace with 200, 40 points to keep pace with 250. When I play a $5,000 quarterback, he's got to get me 20 points to keep pace with 200 and 25 points to keep pace with 250. So I effectively have a 15-point leverage where a Wilson / Dobbs only needs to put up 25 to equal a 40-pointer from Mahomes or Hurts. So when you're nervous to click the button on a cheaper quarterback, and I get it, last year was not the year of the cheap quarterback. We basically were taught that you will get punished if you play a cheap quarterback last season outside of the Fields run. There was almost no other goodness that came last year. I think we're seeing a little something different. I think it's worth taking the shot, very similar to how a cheaper running back at 5,500 has so much more of a path to a 5 or 6x than the 9K guy normally would. So my final thought is don't be scared of playing these cheaper, not so good quarterbacks, because in a tournament, the leverage that you get and the ability to get 5 or 6 or 7x from a player outweighs the fact that they won't do it as frequently as the studs.
Hey, one more final thought for me, because I didn't really have one. If you are wondering like what you should be doing on this slate, just play the Jets. Just play the Jets. That easy.
Just the Jets. Load up on Jets offense.
Yeah. And defense. It's fine.
This might be the only slate of the entire year where that could possibly be a piece of advice that anybody would ever give. Just play the Jets. Really? Do you want to the Jets? But here we are. This is our life now. So, guys, hit that like button, subscribe, notification bell, sign up at DFS Army. We are going strong. And NBA season is around the corner. We absolutely smash NBA as well. The showdowns, we have not taken down a showdown on the season. We're crushing the main slates. And a little bonus that DraftKings is rolling out a super mini max for the afternoon slate. So I will be going all in on the afternoon slate this week. We got a mega mini max contest, which they literally for afternoons, it's been a $15 or nothing. So
that might
I'm
be the
excited.
nugget of the pod right there. Wow.
Yeah. A little super mega mini max action going. I don't know if not everybody plays that, BobbyWow. Like everybody's like, what? They got a quarter game? Like, I don't know who's watching. You know what I'm saying? But I like the mega mini max. I like to attack. I like to be able to run 150 and really think through a slate. And I like to do it without fear of the amount of money that I'm putting down. Right. And the mini max at a $3 entry for me allows me to I'm just going to do the right moves, leverage ownership, and do those things. Where if I'm putting $20 per lineup and I got, a ton of money invested, if I got $4,000 invested on a slate, I'm kind of like, I want to make some of this back. You know what I mean? So I'm a little more constrained. So I'm excited. Nice. I'm excited, no statsational. That's just, throwing out. Yeah. Oh, they got $100 150. No worries. I'll max it. Like, I don't want to do that. So I'm excited for that mega mini, whatever the fuck it is. Afternoon slate only. So I'll be attacking that one as well this week. Helmets up, guys. We will see you on the top of the leaderboards. Until next time.